They say every town has its secrets. Ours was buried beneath crumbling tombstones and rusted iron gates. I never used to believe the rumors. Whispers about the old Briarwood Cemetery. They called it cursed, a place where the dead refused to rest. But the strangest part of the legend wasn't about ghosts or shadows. It was about time. According to anyone foolish enough to wander close, the cemetery gates opened by themselves every night. Not at midnight, not at dawn, but precisely at 3:00 a.m. No one could explain it. Some said it was wind, others swore it was trickery. But those who went inside rarely came back unchanged. I hadn't thought much about it until recently. You see, Briarwood was a mile from my house. Every night, when the world was quiet and I should have been asleep, I'd hear the creak of those gates swinging open. It wasn't just in my head. The sound carried through the valley, a long, dragging groan of rusted iron. The first time I heard it, I froze in bed, staring at the ceiling until dawn. The second time, I crept to the window. And there it was. Across the dark fields, I saw the silhouette of the gates, wide open. A shadowy wound in the night. I told myself to forget it. But curiosity is poison. It eats at you slowly. And one night, I decided to find out what really happened at 3 a.m. It was October 29th, a few days before Halloween, when I finally gave in. The moon was high, the air crisp with the smell of wet leaves. I told myself I was just going for a walk, but I knew where my feet were taking me, toward the cemetery. Every step made me feel like I was walking into a story I didn't want to be part of. By the time I reached the stone wall, my phone read 2:55 a.m. 5 minutes until truth or madness. The gates were shut, sealed with heavy chains. I almost laughed at how ordinary they looked. But then, the air changed. It's hard to explain, but it was like the night itself was holding its breath. The crickets fell silent. The wind stilled. Even my heart seemed to slow. And then it began. At exactly 3 a.m., the chains rattled. My breath caught in my throat as the iron links writhed, snaking loose without a hand touching them. The padlock clicked open, clattered to the ground. The gates groaned, slowly, painfully. They pushed themselves wide. Beyond them lay rows of crooked stones, bathed in moonlight. The cemetery waited, patient, inviting. And in that moment, I realized something terrible. The gates hadn't just opened for anyone. They'd opened for me. I should have turned back. Every instinct screamed at me to run home, lock the door, and forget what I'd seen. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped forward. The gates were open just enough for me to slip through, as if the cemetery had been waiting. My shoes crunched against the gravel path, and the sound was deafening in the silence. The air inside felt colder, unnaturally so. My breath misted in front of me, even though it wasn't freezing outside. Rows of headstones stretched into the distance, cracked and leaning, their names nearly erased by time. Some tilted at odd angles, like teeth rotting out of a jaw. I told myself I'd walk a few steps in, look around, and leave. Just enough to say I'd done it, to silence the gnawing curiosity. But something deeper pulled me forward, like invisible strings tugging at my chest. The deeper I went, the heavier the silence grew. It wasn't just quiet, it was wrong. It felt like the night was holding its breath, like the earth itself was waiting for something. And then I heard it. A whisper. So faint, I thought it was the wind. But there was no wind. I froze, straining to listen. The whisper grew clearer. Words I couldn't quite make out. They slid through the darkness like snakes, curling around my ears. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. The clock read 3:07 a.m. I thought about turning on the flashlight, but some part of me knew that would be a mistake. Light might show me more than I wanted to see. So I pressed forward. Guided by whispers, I couldn't understand. Then I saw it. A single headstone stood apart from the others. Unlike the rest, it wasn't cracked or weathered. The stone looked new, too new, and carved into its surface was a name, my name. I stumbled backward, nearly falling over my own feet. My stomach dropped like a stone through water. No, I muttered under my breath, shaking my head. No, 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 this isn't real. But it was real. The letters were sharp and deep, etched into stone with cruel precision. Beneath my name was a date, my birthday, and below that, a death date, the same date as tonight. My skin went cold. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw motion. A figure. It stood several yards away, half hidden in shadow. Tall, still, featureless, watching. The whispering grew louder. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but my throat was dry, paralyzed. And then the figure raised a hand. Slowly, deliberately. It pointed at the grave with my name on it. That's when the ground beneath me shifted. The earth cracked open at the base of the headstone, soil spilling outward like a wound splitting open. A coffin lid pressed through the dirt. The wood creaked. Something inside was trying to get out. The coffin lid heaved against the soil, splintering as unseen hands forced it open from below. I staggered backward, my breath catching in sharp gasps. The whispers had risen to a chorus now, dozens of voices hissing my name through the night air. The figure that had pointed at the grave did not move. It only watched. The coffin lid cracked. A pale hand burst through the dirt. I couldn't breathe. My heart slammed against my ribs as the hand clawed its way upward, followed by another. Then came a face. My face! I screamed. The thing emerging from the grave looked exactly like me. Same eyes, same mouth, same terrified expression. But its skin was gray, its lips blackened as if frostbitten. It dragged itself from the coffin, gasping for air it didn't need. Its eyes locked onto mine with hollow hunger. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a crooked headstone. My doppelganger pulled free from the dirt, standing tall in the moonlight. It wasn't just a reflection. It was me without life, a corpse version of myself. And when it smiled, my stomach turned to ice. I ran. I didn't think. Didn't plan. I just turned and bolted down the gravel path, the sound of crunching footsteps behind me. Every shadow seemed alive, every headstone leaning closer. The cemetery had shifted, the rows of graves twisting into a maze. I couldn't find the gate. No matter how far I ran, the iron entrance was gone, swallowed by endless tombstones. And behind me, I heard the thing chasing. Its footsteps matched mine perfectly, as though it knew every move I would make before I made it. I glanced back once and saw it loping after me with unnatural grace, my face twisted in a sick grin, eyes glowing faintly like embers. "Stop running," it whispered, though its mouth never moved. The words slithered directly into my head. I tripped. My knees slammed into the dirt, pain shooting up my legs. Before I could rise, the thing was there, looming over me. It crouched low, face inches from mine. I could smell the damp rot clinging to its skin. "You don't belong here," it hissed in my voice. "But you will." It reached out with cold fingers, pressing its hand against my chest. My heart seized under its touch, a terrible pressure crushing me. I gasped, my vision tunneling. I could feel something being pulled out of me, like threads of my soul unraveling. And then, just as darkness closed in, a bell tolled, deep, echoing, from somewhere beyond the cemetery walls. The thing froze, its head snapping toward the sound. The pressure on my chest vanished. I collapsed onto the ground, wheezing. The bell tolled again, and again, 3 times in total. When I looked up, The thing was gone. So was the figure that had pointed at the grave. Only silence remained. Shaking, I pulled myself up, stumbling blindly through the maze of tombstones. Somehow, though I don't know how, I found the gate. It stood wide open, waiting for me. I ran through without looking back, the chains rattling shut behind me the moment I crossed the threshold. When I finally dared to check my phone, the time read 3:33 a.m. I don't remember walking home. I only remember collapsing into bed, shivering until morning light broke through the blinds. But I couldn't shake the memory, the coffin, the doppelganger, and most of all, the grave with my name on it. Because when I woke up, I realized something. The death date carved into the stone wasn't just tonight. It was 3 days from now. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I lay in bed with my eyes wide open, the blankets clutched to my chest, waiting for sunlight to sweep away what I had seen. But dawn brought no peace, only questions and fear. I kept seeing it every time I blinked, the coffin cracking open, my own corpse crawling out, the grave with my name. And worst of all, that date. 3 days from now, the hours dragged until morning. I told myself it had to be a hallucination, sleep deprivation, my imagination feeding off the stories I'd heard my whole life. But when I checked my shoes, the soles were caked with damp cemetery dirt. It hadn't been a dream. That day, I avoided everyone. I didn't answer my phone. I didn't go to work. By evening, I'd convinced myself not to go back. Whatever that place was, it wanted me there. It wanted me dead. But curiosity doesn't die easy. I needed answers. So I searched the town archives, buried deep in the library's dusty basement. There were records of Briarwood Cemetery, going back to the 1800s, accidents, disappearances, people who had entered at night and never returned. One newspaper clipping stopped me cold. Local. Teen found dead near Briarwood Cemetery, 1963. The photo was grainy, but the headline showed a pale boy lying near the gates. The odd part? Witnesses claimed they'd seen him walking into town the next day. 2 places at once. A body in the ground. A ghost in the streets. I shut the file quickly, my hands trembling. The words blurred together, but one phrase lodged itself in my mind. The cemetery chooses who to open for. That explained why the gates had moved for me. But why me? The answer came sooner than I wanted. That night, I set alarms. I swore I wouldn't sleep. At exactly 3:20 a.m., I heard it again. The groan of iron. The chains rattling loose. The cemetery was opening. I stayed in bed at first, fists clenched, whispering to myself not to go. But something gnawed at my skull. A whisper. Not faint like before, not distant. This time, it came from inside my room. Come back. The sound coiled from the corner of the darkened room. My head snapped toward the closet, where the door stood open a crack. I grabbed my phone, fumbling with the flashlight, and aimed it at the gap. Nothing. But when I turned the light off, I saw him. The corpse version of myself, standing inside the closet, smiling. I dropped the phone. The whisper slithered into my ear, though his lips never moved. Your grave is waiting. I bolted from the house, not even grabbing shoes. The night air cut my feet on gravel as I stumbled down the road. The whispers followed me, not from behind, not from the distance, from inside me, pulling, guiding, dragging me back toward Briarwood. When I reached the gates, they were already wide open. And this time, I didn't resist. I stepped inside, trembling, as the cemetery swallowed me whole. The gates slammed shut behind me. The sound of the gates slamming shut behind me echoed like a death knell. I froze on the gravel path, staring back at the iron bars. They loomed in the moonlight, locked tight again, the chains snaking around them as if they'd never opened. I was trapped. And the cemetery was awake. This time, I didn't wander. I was pulled. My feet carried me deeper, guided by whispers that grew louder with every step. The tombstones seemed to lean closer, their worn faces carved with names I didn't recognize, yet some felt disturbingly familiar, like déjà vu etched in stone. The ground shifted beneath me, soft with damp soil that clung to my bare feet. Every breath I took tasted of rot. And then I saw movement. Figures rising from their graves. Dozens of them. Pale bodies dragging themselves from the earth, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Some missing jaws, others with broken spines that twisted as they crawled. They didn't groan. They didn't scream. They whispered all at once, and every voice said the same word. My name. I staggered back, clutching my head. Their whispers weren't just sounds. They were inside me, scratching against my skull. I turned, desperate to run, but they moved in unison, closing ranks around me. Not fast, not violent, just steady, as if they knew I couldn't escape. I backed into a crooked angel statue, its stone wings cracked and moss-eaten. My breath came in shallow gasps. And then, through the wall of corpses, he stepped forward. The doppelganger. The corpse version of me. Its eyes burned brighter now, its grin wider. You came back, it whispered. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. What do you want from me? It tilted its head like a mirror studying its reflection. To finish what was started. I shook my head violently. No, you're not me. You're not. The thing laughed, a low, hollow sound that curdled my blood. I am what remains when you're gone. The you that belongs here. The you that never leaves. It raised a hand, and the corpses parted, creating a path deeper into the cemetery. Come, see what waits for you. My legs refused, but the whispers compelled me forward. I walked between the dead as they bowed their heads in unison, like priests at some twisted ceremony. Their eyes followed me, glowing with hunger, with reverence. The path led to a crypt at the heart of the cemetery. Its stone doors hung half open, blackness yawning inside. The doppelganger gestured for me to enter. I stopped at the threshold, every cell in my body screaming, "No!" And then it spoke again. You don't have a choice. A cold hand pressed against my back. One of the corpses had stepped forward, shoving me inside the crypt. The doors slammed shut behind me. Pitch black. The air reeked of mildew and something sweeter, like rotting flowers. My hands fumbled along the walls, searching for escape, but all I felt was damp stone, slick with moss. Then, from the darkness, a sound rose, breathing, not mine. Slow, steady, patient. I raised my shaking hands, and something colder than ice brushed my skin. A voice slid into the silence. You're late. The voice came from inches away in the pitch-black crypt. You're late. My breath caught in my throat. I tried to back away, but the cold stone pressed against my spine. The breathing grew louder, closer, until I swore I felt it brushing against my face. With shaking fingers, I fumbled for my phone. I turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark and landed on a face. It wasn't my doppelganger. It wasn't one of the corpses. It was something worse. A withered figure crouched in the corner, its skin clinging tight to bone, lips pulled back in a permanent grin. Its eyes were black pits, bottomless, swallowing the light. The stench rolling off it was unbearable. Earth, rot, and something ancient. It tilted its head at the light, unblinking. You were expected, it whispered. Its voice wasn't sound. It was vibration, worming directly into my skull. Expected by who? I forced out. The thing raised a skeletal finger and pointed, not at me, but past me. I turned. The beam of my flashlight fell upon the far wall of the crypt, and there it was. A coffin, not buried, not sealed, waiting, with my name carved into the wood. The breath left my body. I dropped the phone, the lights spinning across the damp floor. I stumbled back, shaking my head violently. No, that's not real. That can't be real. But it was. My name carved deep into the coffin's lid, the same date beneath it. 3 days from now. The creature's grin widened. The grave is ready. The coffin lid creaked, slowly, deliberately. Something inside pushed upward. I lunged for the crypt door, slamming my fists against it, screaming until my throat tore. The stone didn't budge. Behind me, the coffin lid opened wider. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. I turned and saw myself rising from the coffin. Not the corpse version I'd seen before. This one was fresh. My exact mirror, skin pink, eyes bright, alive. It stepped out barefoot, wearing my clothes, my face perfect in every detail, and it smiled. "You don't need to fight anymore," it said in my voice. "I'll live for you. Out there, in your place." It stepped closer, placing a hand against my chest. The same crushing weight as before pressed into me, harder this time. I fell to my knees, gasping, as it leaned down, its mouth close to my ear. "You belong here, with the rest of us." The crypt filled with whispers, dozens of voices chanting my name, pressing in from every direction. I clawed at the floor, desperate. But the pressure in my chest grew unbearable. My vision darkened, my limbs numbed. The thing, my double, stood tall, radiant and alive, and as I collapsed, I realized something horrifying. It wasn't trying to kill me. It was trying to take my place. Suddenly, the crypt door cracked open. A beam of silver moonlight sliced through the dark. The whispers fell silent. The doppelganger froze, its hand still pressed against me. In the doorway stood a woman, old, frail, with white hair spilling over her shoulders. She held a lantern that burned with unnatural light, brighter than the moon itself. Her eyes locked onto mine. "You're not supposed to be here yet," she said, and with one wave of her lantern, the double vanished in a wisp of smoke. The crypt was suddenly silent. My double had vanished like smoke, leaving only the lingering chill of its touch. I collapsed onto the damp floor, clutching my chest, gasping like I'd just been dragged out of deep water. The woman's lantern burned brighter than any flame I'd ever seen, casting golden light that pushed the shadows back like they were alive and fleeing. She stepped forward slowly, her movements stiff but deliberate, the lantern steady in her hand. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. Who are you?" Her eyes softened, though her face was carved with lines of age. "Someone who's been fighting this place longer than you've been alive." She extended a trembling hand and pulled me to my feet with surprising strength. "We don't have much time," she said. "If you're here now, it means the cemetery has marked you." My head spun. "Marked me? What does that mean?" She guided me out of the crypt, the heavy stone door creaking open as if the lantern's glow had authority over it. The moment we stepped outside, the whispers retreated, curling into the earth. The cemetery stretched silent around us, but I could feel it still breathing, waiting. The woman lowered her lantern, its glow flickering like a heartbeat. Every few decades, Briarwood chooses someone. It opens its gates at 3 a.m., not for wanderers, not for the curious, but for the chosen. Those it wants to claim, her eyes fixed on me. "This time, it's you," my knees buckled. "Why me? I didn't do anything. I don't even believe in this place." "That doesn't matter," she said sharply. "It never does. It doesn't choose the guilty or the worthy. It chooses who it can use." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Use? For what?" She glanced around, her expression tightening. "To keep the dead from staying dead. You saw your double, didn't you?" I nodded slowly, bile rising in my throat. "That was your replacement," she said. "The cemetery makes a copy, living flesh born from the grave. If it succeeds, you'll be trapped here forever, and your double will walk free in your world. No one will ever know the difference." Her voice dropped, almost breaking. "It happened to my brother." I stared at her, words failing. She raised the lantern again, and I saw the faintest shimmer in her eyes. Pain she'd carried for decades. "He came here when we were young, drawn the same way you were. I tried to stop it, but the cemetery took him. His double went home, lived his life. No one noticed the difference." She swallowed hard. "But I did. The thing wearing his face wasn't him, and the real him, my brother, remains here still. One of the whispering dead." Her voice trembled. I stayed behind to fight it, to stop others from being taken. "But I can't fight it forever." She turned to me, her gaze piercing. "And now it's your turn. You have 3 nights left." The words sank into me like ice. 3 nights. 3 nights before the grave with my name on it claimed me for good. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The woman lifted the lantern, its glow flaring brighter. "You survive until dawn," she said, "but each night will be worse than the last. And if you falter even once, your double will walk in your skin while you rot in the dirt." The light flickered, dimming. She looked down at the lantern with concern. "It's weakening," she murmured. "It only lasts so long." Then she gripped my arm with startling strength. "Listen to me. Whatever happens, don't go near the grave with your name again. It's the doorway. If you step too close, you'll never come back." Before I could respond, the lantern sputtered violently. The glow collapsed into a single spark, then winked out. We were plunged into darkness. The whispers returned instantly. Dozens, hundreds, rising from every grave, slithering through the night air. The woman cursed under her breath. "It's too soon! Run!" I spun around, but the path was gone. The cemetery twisted itself again, warping into a maze of endless tombstones. And ahead of me, through the dark, a shape was moving. Not the corpses this time. Not even my doppelganger. Something much older, much bigger. Its shadow stretched across the stones, taller than the crypts, with too many arms reaching outward. The whispers swelled to a roar, and I realized the cemetery hadn't shown me everything yet. Not even close. The shadow moved, stretching across the crooked stones like a storm cloud descending. I froze, every muscle screaming to run, but my legs felt rooted in the soil. The woman gripped my wrist, her nails digging into my skin. "Don't look at it too long," she hissed. "If you do, it will notice you." But it was too late. The shape towered over the graves, blotting out the moon. Its body shifted like smoke and bone fused together, its many arms reaching, twitching, clawing at the night. And when it spoke, the ground trembled beneath my feet. "You are mine." The words weren't sound. They rumbled through the earth, through my bones. My head split with pain. The woman dragged me behind a row of leaning tombstones. "Keep moving. Stay low. It can't follow where the graves are thickest." I stumbled after her, my breath ragged, the whispers swelling around us like a hurricane. Every stone we passed seemed to hum, their carved names vibrating in my skull. Then one of the arms swept down. The earth cracked open yards away, coffins exploding upward as corpses spilled out like puppets cut from strings. They twitched, then crawled, drawn toward us by invisible command. The woman raised her lantern, but it was still dead. She cursed, clutching it close like it was her last weapon. "Don't let them touch you," she said. The corpses were closing in, their whispers now chants, my name, over and over. We ducked into a narrow gap between two mausoleums. The space was barely wide enough to squeeze through, the stone damp against my arms as we shuffled sideways. Behind us, the shadow moved, its arms clawing at the sky, its voice rattling the stones. "Return to your grave." I clenched my teeth, fighting the urge to scream. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would burst. When we finally burst out the other side, I nearly collapsed. But there, waiting for us, was the doppelganger. It stood in the moonlight, perfect in every detail. My face, my body, my eyes, except its smile was stretched too wide, its pupils too dark. It spread its arms as if to welcome me home. "You can't run," it said softly. "Not from me, not from yourself." I backed away, my voice breaking. "Why me? Why are you doing this?" Its grin widened. "Because you were chosen. Because the living world needs replacing. And you're the perfect vessel." The woman stepped between us, raising her useless lantern. "Get back, imposter!" The double tilted its head. "You've been fighting too long, old woman. Your light is fading. You can't keep him safe." The woman's hand trembled, but she didn't lower the lantern. "You won't take him," she said. Then the ground beneath us split open. A new grave tore itself into existence, soil spilling outward like blood. At its center, a coffin rose, its lid already ajar. I didn't need to see the name on it. I knew it was mine. The double extended a hand toward me. "It's ready!" The woman shoved me back, her voice sharp with desperation. "Run! Don't let it drag you in!" But the coffin lid creaked wider, and from inside, pale hands reached upward. Not my double's hands, my own. Dozens of them, clawing, grasping, pulling me toward the open earth. The shadow above roared with laughter, its arms stretching wider, blotting out the stars. The cemetery was closing in, and I realized, with ice in my veins, that the woman had been right. Each night would be worse than the last, and this was only night one. The ground split wider, the pale hands clawing at my ankles, dragging me toward the open coffin. My screams tore through the night, swallowed almost instantly by the whispering chorus. The woman dropped to her knees beside me, striking at the hands with her lantern. Even without its light, the iron shell of it burned them. The flesh sizzled and recoiled. "Get up," she shouted. "Fight it!" I kicked wildly, tearing free, my legs coated in dirt and cold sweat. I scrambled back as the coffin yawned wider, like a hungry mouth in the ground. The double stepped closer, its voice calm, soothing. "Don't fight. You'll only make it worse. Let go, and you'll never feel pain again." I screamed at it. "You're not me!" Its grin sharpened. "I'm the better you." The shadow above loomed lower, its countless arms stretching across the graves. Coffins burst open with every movement, more bodies spilling forth, their glowing eyes fixed on me. The woman grabbed my arm and yanked me to my feet. "The crypt! It's the only place we can hide." "But that's where it started," I shouted. "She dragged me anyway." "Then we finish it there." We stumbled through the maze of leaning stones, the dead closing in behind us. Every step felt heavier, as though the soil itself tried to pull me under. The crypt rose ahead, its door still ajar. We shoved ourselves inside, slamming it shut just as the corpses reached the threshold. Darkness swallowed us whole. The woman lit a match, the tiny flame quivering. Her face looked gaunt in the flicker. "Listen to me," she said, her voice ragged. "There's only one way to break this. You have to reject the grave." I swallowed hard. "Reject it? How?" She pressed the cold lantern into my hands. "You light it. If the lantern chooses you, it will burn bright enough to drive them back." I stared at the useless thing, my hands trembling. "What if it doesn't?" Her eyes hardened. Then you're already dead. The whispers returned, curling against the crypt walls. My name over and over, growing louder until they shook the stone. The coffin inside the crypt groaned again, its lid rattling. I lifted the lantern, my chest tight. "What do I do?" "Will it to burn," she said. "Claim your life. If you don't, your double will take it for you." I closed my eyes, clutching the lantern, praying, begging, screaming inside my head, "I'm not yours. I don't belong here. I am alive." The coffin lid burst open. My double lunged from it, eyes glowing like embers, and in that moment, the lantern ignited. Flames roared out, white gold and blinding. The crypt shook as the light blasted outward, tearing into the shadows, into the corpses swarming outside. Their whispers turned to shrieks as they crumbled into ash. The double staggered back, its face twisting in rage. "No, you can't fight me. I am you." The light surged brighter, wrapping around me like armor. For the first time, the pressure on my chest vanished. I could breathe again. I stepped forward, holding the lantern high. "You're nothing. You're a hollow copy. I'm alive, and you're not." The double screamed, its skin blistering under the light, and then it burst apart into dust. The crypt fell silent. The woman sagged against the wall, exhausted, tears cutting lines down her dirt-streaked face. "You did it," she whispered. For tonight, I stared at the lantern in my hands. The flame still burned, steady and fierce, but in the back of my mind, I felt the cemetery's presence, still, watching, waiting. The woman's voice was barely audible. 2 more nights, and as the lantern's glow cast long shadows on the crypt walls, I realized the truth. The battle wasn't over. It had only begun. The lantern burned in my grip, its white flame filling the crypt with an otherworldly glow. I should have felt relief. I should have collapsed and let exhaustion take me. But instead, the silence pressed harder, suffocating, as if the cemetery itself had simply gone still to study me. The woman leaned against the wall, her face pale, her breath shallow. "It's not over," she said. "You've only survived the first gate. They'll open again, stronger. The cemetery, it doesn't give up." I stared down at the flame. "How many more nights?" Her eyes flicked up to mine, heavy with sorrow. 3 gates, always 3. Tonight was the first. Tomorrow, and the night after. My chest tightened. "And if I don't make it?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth was carved into her face. We stumbled out of the crypt at dawn. The sky blushed with pale pink, the first hints of life after the long, suffocating dark. The corpses were gone. The shadow had retreated, the double. Ashes in the wind, but the graves still whispered. Every headstone I passed seemed to pulse with some hidden breath, like a heart still beating underground. The soil shifted in places, as though restless, as though hungry. The woman noticed me staring. "Don't listen. The dead will always try to call you back." I clenched the lantern tighter. "Why me? Out of everyone, why am I caught in this?" She closed her eyes for a long moment, then opened them. "Because the cemetery chooses. It opens its gates for those who walk too close to the edge of life and death. And you've been standing on that edge longer than you think." Her words sank deep into me, heavier than the soil beneath the graves. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the coffin. My coffin. Pale hands clawing up from within, my face twisted in death, dragging me under. At exactly 3 o'clock, the lantern flared awake in my room. No sound, no movement, just the flame burning, warning me. And I knew. The gates had opened again. I went back. I don't know if I chose it or if it pulled me. The cemetery waited, its iron gates yawning open, fog spilling across the grass like breath from some unseen beast. This time, the dead weren't slow. They didn't whisper. They ran. Figures lunged from the mist, clawing at me with broken fingers and gnashing teeth. The lantern's flame blasted outward in waves, scorching them to ash before they reached me. Still, they came, endless, like a tide that never broke. And above them, the shadow loomed again. But this time, it wasn't smoke and bone. It was wearing my face. I froze. My double was back, but stronger, sharper, alive in ways I wasn't. Its grin stretched too wide, its movements too smooth. "You can't kill me," it said. "Every time you burn me down, I grow closer, stronger. I am the version of you the cemetery wants. And when the gates close for the last time, only one of us will walk out." The ground beneath me split open again, coffins rising, names carved into them, my name over and over, each stone showing a different year, a different death. I stumbled back, the lantern heavy in my hands. "I'm not going to let you take me," the double laughed, the graves laughing with it. "You already have. Every night you come back, every step you take here. You're not escaping. You're already part of us." The woman's voice cut through the chaos. She stood at the cemetery gate, her lantern raised high, its glow faint but stubborn. "Fight it! Fight until the flame consumes everything. Claim your life." The double lunged, its arms like talons, its smile dripping with hunger. I screamed and thrust the lantern forward. The flame burst into an inferno, white and pure, a sun in the heart of the cemetery. The graves howled, the coffins shattered, the shadow writhed, thrashing against the light, and then silence. I collapsed on the ground, the lantern dimming in my hands. The double was gone. The shadow dissolved. The woman knelt beside me, her voice trembling. "You did it! You ended it!" But as I looked around, I wasn't so sure. The cemetery was quiet, yes. The graves still. The gates closed, but deep in the soil, I felt it. Breathing, waiting. The woman touched my shoulder. "Remember this. Cemeteries don't let go. Not truly. One day, when you least expect it, the gates will open again. And when they do, it won't be at 3 a.m. It'll be when you're most vulnerable." I shuddered, the weight of her words sinking into me. The lantern's flame flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed me whole, and I realized the cemetery hadn't ended. It had simply marked me forever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one. Peace out.